probably the best use case for AI, right? Like that's the thing that AI has most quickly been able to attack, which is like customer service calls. Our philosophy on that is they're trying to build a service that can be the AI for, insert property manager or owner here. We already run our own call center, and we're looking at which calls can we do better with AI.
In the July edition of the SSA, the Self-Storage Association monthly magazine, they've got an incredible article called, as you can see here, Executive Decision. It's all about how high-tech talent is now migrating not to more startups, but actually to self-storage. I'm really excited about our guest today. His firm was actually mentioned in this article. They just hired a new head of AI workflow lead. Not even sure what that means. Obviously, he's going to talk about that, but also more importantly, just his thesis around, he's putting capital, obviously, into somebody in this area of the business. So his thesis around how he sees AI transforming our great industry of self-storage. Welcome to the Self-Storage Report. I'm Chris Berg, Head of Business Development at Abernathy Development, also known as your AI storage guy. Speaking of AI and storage, be sure and check out next week's video. We just cut this, but I built a really powerful zoning agents that's doing some really robust stuff about looking at parcels, what are they zoned for, as well as what's the buildable envelope. It blew me away to see what actually Claude and tech is doing these days. Hopefully it'll blow you away as well. So in order to get that right away, be sure and subscribe to this great channel so you can be the first to get that content. All right, let's jump into today's conversation and his thesis around AI and self-storage. Join us today, Peter Smyth. He's the co-founder of White Label Storage. He's got a great background, which we'll dive into as well. But Peter, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I got to check that zoning app out. It actually sounds great.
I do. I was blown away. I've got Claude now, like going into its own like Google Chrome browsers, and it's using Zonomics and Reonomy, and it just is. And then what it does, I don't want to go here, but I built a CRM, and it goes into the CRM and says, bottom line, yes or no, you can build. Here's the buildable envelope. Like it's so hopefully you will enjoy it. And
I mean, you layer that in with like land values and then rents, and you find yourself a good market for adaptive reuse self-storage. I love it.
We'll talk offline about maybe some marketable opportunities there. Let's get into your thesis. Before you do, though, I love your story. You went to Princeton, went to Harvard Business School, and I'm trying to imagine you sitting in a Harvard Business School classroom going, you know what? I'm going to build the next unicorn in self-storage. Like, was that what you were doing, or how did you end up in self-storage?
Nah, that's maybe giving us a little too much credit. It's the world that I knew. I came from real estate development, real estate private equity before school. Became fascinated with the self-storage asset class. It throughout several cycles, and even most recently, like a down cycle for storage is like flat rents, right? And that's what Green Street was what turned me on to that. Everybody got Green Street in our office, and so I just sort of sat there thinking about, as a guy with no capital here, how do we get into self-storage? Had a partner that understood living in tight spaces, having worked and lived in New York City, and we started trying to build this local locker kind of asset semi-light business model, which then led to kind of a core competency of self-storage management, and then led us to just true, pure play third-party management in self-storage. So I think it's just kind of the world you come from, the world is where you end up trying to solve problems and do good work.
So then let's jump right into your thesis around, unless you want to put some background into White Label Storage, you can do that, but also just your thesis before we get into this new hire, and maybe you tie it in here. But obviously, if you're allocating capital in that position, I presume you've sat down and really thought about, okay, here's how I see AI transforming this industry, and this is why we've got to allocate some capital here.
Sure. So, I mean, what's fundamentally different between us and maybe kind of who you would think of when you're talking about AI in any industry is like, we are not building and shipping product as a pure SaaS business. We are a service provider. Property management is a service business that has a human capital component, and that is like the majority of the business. So what AI has done is it's kind of supercharged our ability to deliver value to our clients. And so what's maybe unique about us in relation to your average property management firm is we have an engineering team. We are building software, but we're building software to be a better property manager, not to be a software provider in the industry. And this most recent hire that we made kind of is a good example of that thesis, which is really, we are not just looking at how to do self-storage management better. We are looking at every business unit and trying to figure out where can we get leverage because of, the advancements in AI. So this guy that we hired is actually, we call him an AI workflow lead. You want to know about that title. Really, the best way to think about it is he is our own internal forward deployed engineer. There's this concept of forward deployed engineering. Anthropic just started a company with Blackstone with kind of the thesis of we're going to compete with the McKinseys of the world by getting embedded. Palantir does this too, by the way. We're going to get embedded in different companies and business practices and build unique solutions that give them leverage and do what software always did, which is automate things and make things more powerful. So that's how we're looking at the property management business, and what that allows us to do is be a better property manager at a lower cost structure.
I want to hear your process of how you chose a particular gentleman. I think his name is Austin Rockman, but also what was your pitch to him, right? I mean, there was a gentleman now, apparently they went from NVIDIA to 10 Federal. I don't know if they're a competitor of yours or not, but to 10 Federal. Then you bring this gentleman who did work at Apple, Amazon, YouTube. Everyone's so enamored right now with the AI tech space. Sort of what was your pitch to him to go, hey, leave that and come do self-storage?
Yeah. Well, first off, we know the 10 Federal guys. I don't know the work. They are owners of assets. We are purely a third party manager. We were on a panel with them recently and admire what they sort of pioneered in many ways the remote management model. So have a lot of respect for them. Gosh, the pitch, honestly, the framing of this was kind of the buzzword, like forward deployed engineering. You're going to come into our business. You're going to be an operational leader rather than someone on our software team. And you're going to sit down with our ops team and say, where are the bottlenecks? Where can we create value internally on non-storage workflows? So we're talking about looking at our CRM and trying to understand client sentiment. Where could we do a better job communicating with our clients, our owners? How can we do a better job of generating reports, financial reports? Like, these are things that are not necessarily specific to storage. They are just, they're core business practices that you'd have in any industry. So, what got him excited is he was in the business of doing automation on Apple products, and this kind of, he was looking for a leadership role, and it was a good fit.
So what's your, I guess, ROI expectation on the capital allocation?
Well, gosh, if you think about a property management business or any service business, you're probably going to be somewhere between, hopefully north of 10% EBITDA margin, and maybe, as a non-SaaS business, man, approaching 50% would be really aggressive. We think that a property manager or a service provider with the right application of AI and software can actually start to approach high 30-40% EBITDA margin. The software, really, you want to talk AI thesis. Sequoia wrote about this. There's a good long post about kind of how SaaS and service are starting to blend. I mean, the bigger TAM has always been service, but it's been the less attractive market to be in because it's lower margin. Well, now a lot of the AI workflows have companies focused on outcomes, not solutions. It's not X, if X and then Y. It's how do we deliver on the entire value prop in an industry better and cheaper. So for us, we're looking for, hey man, thinking about this one individual hire is like within the context of an entire roadmap of hiring that we're going to do around trying to get from 20% EBITDA margin to closer to 40 as a business.
So walk me through that process. How do you anticipate going from 20 hypothetically to 40, and
Yep.
what's happened so far? I mean, I know he's brand new, maybe a month or two in, but has there been any use cases up to this point where you're like, hey, Chris, we were doing X and now we're doing X times Y because of what he implemented?
Yeah. Well, just thinking about the business as a whole, really, um, service delivery as a property manager, there's like two buckets of kind of cogs. There's customer service on the tenant level, and essentially like running a call center and doing any triage at the property level. So that's, 30% of our P&L right now. Um, that is probably the best use case for AI, right? Like, that's the thing that AI has most quickly been able to attack, which is like customer service calls. Now, not all of them. Our philosophy on that is, again, this is what would separate us from like a Lumio or a Unity. Like they're trying to build a service that can be the AI for, insert property manager or owner here. We already run our own call center, and we're looking at which calls can we do better with AI. So that's things like where we can deliver information faster and have it be accurate. That's what's your gate code? Let's take a payment, track delinquent tenants down to capture their card. Those things are easier to do, and AI can do that really well, better than a human. Closing a sale requires nuance, understanding what the potential tenant is interested in. So I'd say if that's 30%, I think low hanging fruit is half of those calls, right? So now you've taken 30% of 60% COGS, and you've eliminated it. Then you go over to the other side of the business, which is distributing tasks at the property level, really all the other blocking and tackling at the facility. So that's doing the marketing. There's automations to be done there. There's distributing tasks to boots on ground or on-site property managers, depending on how the building is staffed. That's based on like what information are you pulling out of the facility. And then finally, the third bucket is like interacting with the client. Where we have this guy focused is on doing a better job of interacting with the client. So that's measuring sentiment, understanding if what we provided to the client was helpful. Did they open the report? If not, should we say something different when we deliver the monthly reporting package or weekly reporting package? What was their response? What feedback did they have? And that is like something you probably couldn't have done before. We were always QAing that information with people. Well, now we're building solutions to kind of like flag, hey, here's how we could do a better job here. Here's how we could train our property managers to communicate, process information better, faster, so that our clients have a better experience with us. So,
So a few things. I want to get into the customer relations piece, but also what you're doing with potential people that are renting from these places. So one, for example, I mentioned earlier on about the CRM I built, right? Well, now I've got it to the point where Claude will give me the information how I want it. It was very kind of techy at first, and now it's
yeah,
bottom line, yes or no, you can build. So are you customizing the reports for each individual client and how they want that information from you, or?
uh, we are got it. The information is presented the same way, like same. Yeah, the
Got it.
UI is the same. I don't know if there's any reason for that to be different. We are tailoring it to like the realities at the facility. But what we're kind of trying to do with our reporting is like traditionally you would just use the FMS as the kind of reporting package, right? Yeah, it's the system of record. It has the rent roll and the management reports. We built our own data warehouse that pulls information from the FMS, information from our call center, right? So we want to report on conversions, number of phone calls, pickup rate, every SLA around the call center. Then we have Google Analytics, right? That's SEO, SEM. Where's our performance there? And then feedback that we're getting on the ground, right? Like what's going on at the property. There are. This is where again where there will always be some element of service that you can't eliminate there, which is why like a lot of software players are going to be reluctant to get into service, which is, hey, remember when we talked about how you weren't happy with curbside appeal? Well, here's what I did, this week, and we got a problem with the boots on ground. I think we might need someone like that stuff is in the reports as well. So that, originally at the top, I didn't answer your question around this hire and how he's immediately going to impact margin. I want to get back to, we're always trying to do something that's either going to be cheaper or better. In this case, we probably have him more focused on better, right? Like the client service side of things is how do we become a better steward of the asset? And a lot of that is just like be a better partner, communicate better. So that's a lot of where he's spending his time. And so I'd say on the margin side, our engineering team, led by a guy named Ben Gross, like we are attacking margin probably more aggressively there on what we consider to be the low hanging fruit, and that's customer service.
Let's stay on the asset people for a minute. So what's the number one problem you're solving for them right now?
Um, I'd say the disparity amongst owner types and asset types is the hardest part of our business. Like we
Ah,
are scaling across the bottom of the pyramid, right? And what I mean by that is like on average, the smaller non-institutional assets around the US and secondary and tertiary markets. We're managing large stuff as well, but I'd say where we, came up quickly is we can manage small assets remotely cheaper than anybody else. And because of that, these assets come in every shape and size, right? Like a nicer, larger asset in the core market tends to present more similar to other nice core assets. Like a lot of the stuff that needs to be done has been done. And a lot of the owners are similar because they tend to be like institutional financial players. Whereas in many of these other markets, like we're dealing with very different owners, might be someone who has another job and is actually the boots on ground at the property with us, or it could be a young guy spinning out of a private equity firm and trying to roll these things up. And like those people all have a different approach to how they want to manage the facility, what their goals are. And that makes it hard to deliver a consistent service across them. There's just a lot of variability there. So that's where we have to spend a lot of time.
is there a way that you could start to interview those people and then get it customized for them? So, because for example, someone who's got a legacy asset,
Yeah.
I'm solving for something much different than, like you said, the private equity guy that probably wants to flip out in 5 to 7 years. So, is that part of what this new hire is going to be looking at? Is how do we
Yes.
start? Got
I mean, a lot of the work, gosh, I mean, we can go all day about this, but like
it.
it's like you start learning about your potential client at the sales process, right? Like when you're trying to pitch business to them. And then you learn more during transitions when at your first handoff, you go from one relationship where you close the deal to another relationship. By the way, there's risk at that point. Like the person signed up talking to the sales team. Now they're introduced to the transitions team. So you have to do a good job there and gather more information. And by the end, we actually are trying to not just based on persona of client, but based on type of asset, like bucket these things into different tiers where
Ah.
we have one property manager managing facilities that we believe are going to behave most similarly based on the type of market that they're in, the type of owner that they have. And that's where we need to do a lot of work is like, how do we categorize these things?
And then the next level I see is because the thing that we're solving for right now, moving towards is almost a futuristic projection, right? Like as we build our CRM and get the data, it starts to tell us, hey, you guys should really be looking in this area, you're looking in that area. Is the next thing that you're trying to solve maybe for some of your clients is, hey, we see the market now is at, I'm going to make this up, but 5.5 cap, and there's a lot of deals transacting. You should sell now, or is that where you see this going? Or
We're tr- we are collecting the data to be able to do that. What I'd say is
um,
we manage about 300 stores across 43 states right now. So you don't have to do hard math to figure out like we're pretty spread out, right? They have some density in some markets, but it is hard for us to like extrapolate among the very different assets that we have right now. We can sort of sniper shot some markets where we have good like a strong presence. But I think as we scale, we will have some data that is powerful there. I mean, like that is a goal of ours to be able to kind of empower our clients to make better decisions around what markets they want to enter, maybe anticipate where rates are going. Um, I've always thought Storable, which is one of our, we use StoreEdge and SiteLink. We operate on top of their FMSs. Like, God, nobody's got better data in the industry than they do. Every once in a while, they'll put a report out. And I'm like, man, I wish if you could only like, if we could leverage all of your data, we could understand everything about this market because you have 65-70% market share.
fascinating. Let's go back to where the people that are renting from you, they're calling into your call centers. Um, are you recording those phone calls? And if so, like how are you utilizing AI there? Or what's happening in the call center space to help increase ROI there?
Yeah. So a lot of where we're spending our time now is like, okay, it's a resolution rate using AI. I mean, like obviously, if you can keep the call and do a good job within your kind of agentic version of your call center, one, you're doing that at a fraction of a cost of a person answering the call. But what happens is like, it's not just like build it, test it once. It's why did somebody like, why did somebody escalate their way out of what was ultimately a very simple solution that they were looking for, and how can we tweak? So resolution rate is huge. And honestly, if you go talk to any of these AI agents in the market, they'll a lot of what they'll spend their time on is their resolution rate. So that's where we're focused now, because if we can just move the needle a little bit, I mean, we're not quite at 10,000 phone calls a week. We are around the first of the month, but we get close to 20,000 phone calls a month. Little swings in percentages are huge swings in cost for us, in cost reduction rather. So for us, it's, well, how can we do a better job resolving the calls that we're trying to resolve? And like sometimes we should spend more time just doing a better job of like the use cases we've already built, meaning like we've already got our agentic agents taking payment. Well, a lot of times somebody still goes to an actual agent, or call center agent rather, to make their payments. Like, why weren't we able to close that? We need to spend more time perfecting that one use case before we move on to any others.
And are you recording the calls and then analyzing like, hey, what's the
Yeah.
number one objection that like what's the common objections that your salespeople are getting? And then how are you training them to better overcome those?
Yeah. Well, you do that so yes, we are recording calls. And by the way, it's like you kind of treat it the same way that you would always have treated um, your call center without AI. Like the powerful thing about AI though is that you can QA every call instead of QA two calls. We used to QA for every agent. We would QA 2 sales calls and 2 service calls a week, and then grade them and give them feedback. Now we can do sentiment analysis across all calls. So yeah, that's that's why you can just deliver this stuff way faster and get to market faster and improve faster. But like people still know that it's AI, and they will escalate their way out of it. Like I haven't talked to an agent yet where you don't know. Um, I like talking to the agents because usually I'll try to like get them to hallucinate just because I want to see how good the AI is. But yeah, I mean we're dealing with people in markets that don't want to talk to AI. That's
And
oftentimes why.
yeah, and I can definitely appreciate that. Plus, different demos and things like that. Are you finding a demographic breakdown? Are you finding, hey, older demos want nothing to do with it, younger demos, they're easily working with it?
I don't know that have extrapolated that. Well, actually, on the most extreme use case, we have this local locker business, the New York and DC and Boston facilities where we convert, retail storefronts into stores. And that's a different business, but we like won't take calls at those facilities because people it's like mostly a younger kind of yuppie demographic, and they just figure out a way to book online. Like they will not be stopped by us not picking up the phone. And so it is just a better business decision to kind of force them to solve their own problems and then just take the service calls when there's problems. But like, hey, book your own unit, right? So yes, there's clearly some demos that impact that. I don't know that we aren't yet focused on like, okay, here's a senior demo in this market, and so let's just not even send them to the AI agent. We'd have to get pretty far down the path of solving problems where we start making projections about that.
Yeah. Walk me through, let's go out 5 years and tell me what you see with self-storage through your AI thesis lens.
Sure. I think most of the like the first thing that's going to happen, I think, is the call center is just going to be mostly AI. Like it's just going to keep getting better and better. And that, yeah, stepping even like beyond storage, I feel like the yield on assets over the long term is going to be higher because the
Oh, that's
the
good.
costs are going
That's
to come
good.
down. And so owning an asset, that will all normalize, right? Then people will pay more, and then the yield will find its level, and we'll go back to 5 caps, and we'll normalize to treasuries, right? But spread on treasuries. But in the meantime, like if I had $1 trillion, I'd invest in hard assets because I do think like operating costs are only going to come down. We're seeing that at our business. I think um, tertiary market, smaller assets will. Right now, there is like just think about self storage minimums for management. Like we're probably not going to manage an asset for less than $1,000 a month. Like it's just like one phone call with one property manager for me making a salary then starts to eat away at that client, us being able to do much work on that property. Well, if we could eliminate so many of the other costs, like we can lower management fees, and the management fee on it, self storage or any facility is like traditionally six, 3 to 8%, depending on how big the asset is. Like if you can get a small facility down to 3%, then you can get more institutional capital into these tertiary markets, right? Like right now that they're just overburdened by expenses. Similarly, it will make it more attractive for institutional managers to be there. And right now, if you go buy an apartment building in like, I don't know, Hampton Roads, Virginia, and it's 5 units, like there aren't a lot of property managers that will manage that property. And so you might be, if you burn through one, you might not have another one in that market. So I just think it will allow people to chase yield and distribute capital into smaller assets. Like that's I think the trend that I'm most confident in, which is that tertiary assets will become more institutional. There will be a consolidation of these things, of institutional capital.
Couple
In Good.
couple questions around that. One is what I'm hearing you say, at least what I'm seeing as you're talking is you're building this platform, sort of like what Amazon did, what Costco's done. And then as you bring these costs down, you're going to give that back to your asset owners. Is that what I'm hearing you say essentially?
Yeah, I mean that's what we're doing right now. Like
Yeah.
obviously we're not. It's not a race to the bottom here. Like we certainly don't want to be a commodity business. But yeah, I mean like
Think
the
you built a beautiful flywheel, right? Like Amazon's done, like Costco's done is
yeah,
when I
exactly. Yeah,
lower these costs and give it back to my customer, then they just keep wanting to work with me. And so I
the
love
cost
that.
advantage is the most powerful competitive advantage, right? Like it
Yes.
is the scale advantage. And this industry, like where I see what the goal for our business is, like there will be consolidation. There will be some institutional players in every asset class. We want to be the institutional player in self storage, the one that across the non-institutional assets. I mean, that's what we're doing now. That's what we're building, and I think it'll happen in every asset class.
With that being said, then I'd love to hear your thoughts or your thesis around the public storage well tower JV. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with that?
Uh, uh, so public storage well tower, NSA, uh, Smart Stop, Argus. I think all of those are like examples of this consolidation starting to happen. Like everybody wanting like the owner operator wants some proprietary advantage. Go ahead.
But I'm curious your thoughts on it because my thesis on the public storage well tower thing is well tower has been building this AI platform for I think it's a decade now, 12 years that a lot of people weren't aware of. I know they do senior living, but I think that's where public is going. Hey, like one of the things that really jumped out to me, I was at the New York SSA and I was shocked how often and how much capital was being invested in data science people, right? Like it wasn't about the real estate. It was like, look, we are taking all our energy right now trying to find the best data science minds that we can. And so that's why I'm curious if you see how you see how you see public storage leveraging well tower. And I don't know if you've been watching the public storage stock, but I mean, as a few weeks ago, it was outperforming the QQQ and the S&P 500 year to date. And I'm like, okay, I think people are buying the platform.
Yeah. When I'm always thinking about it, I'm thinking about it from a competitive standpoint, right? So it's like, are they going to enter our market sooner than we want them to, right? Um,
Yes.
you had Extra Space get into kind of this smaller stuff a couple years ago, with Bargold, which is a funky one, and then the Jefferson Street portfolio, and maybe it was a false start. We certainly haven't like bumped into them on like very small assets from the management front. I think they probably like their job is to deploy capital and report on FFO, right? So if they can find ways to manage to find small assets become attractive, like what I was saying before. I mean, one way to do that is to learn how to manage them. And one way to be able to manage them is to actually have the technology to lower the cost structure to be able to do it. I think that's probably where this is headed. I don't know, but there's probably other reasons to do that too. You know, there are a lot of reasons to build AI, like just overall lowering your cost structure. You either buy it or build it. My sense is that probably easier for for public storage to partner with somebody that's done a lot of this legwork to get there faster. I would, so yeah, I think this is all to essentially expand their market within
Yeah.
storage. I don't think they're going to get. I don't think they're focused on like getting outside of storage. I think they're focused on expanding their storage TAM.
Yes. I mean, obviously what they did with Canada and things like that. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because this is something I've seen now for a while and curious when you think this becomes a reality, if it ever does. But you look at some of the high end industrial assets that are out there and everything's robotics, right? And what Amazon's doing
Yeah.
with robotics, when is the day when I just say, hey, Tesla, I need my bike, go to my storage site and go pick it up and bring it back to me? And a robot just go grabs my bike, brings it out, puts it in my Tesla and drives it back to me and I go for my ride.
Gosh, I'm not the guy to make that prediction, but the one that what I thought you were going to say was, when are you going to like? We are really exploring this remote management thing, but like the hardest part of it right now is the on-site labor. It truly is. Like that is where we spend a lot of time, have a lot of variability across the board. Like, how do you find somebody in a tertiary market with 3,000 people to show up, overlock units,
I
to
see.
understand? And
Yeah.
and so I thought you were going to say like, whether it's
Robot.
drones or robot, like that is the part of remote management that is not remote. And there you could do, but like some of the other sort of downsides to remote management are security and just having a good understanding of what's going on the ground. Like that eventually will be a possibility. And I don't think it's that hard in store. Like, we got these robots doing laundry now. I mean, at some point, you can overlock units, take video, and be a moving security camera that could block and tackle in a couple tasks.
Bro, I love that. That's so good. Been a great
Would love
conversation.
that. I would
What's that?
deploy that to every one of our assets, and then we would solve one of our major headaches, which is finding good talent in these other markets.
Yeah, and I don't so I think you're what, 3 to 5 years from that? I mean, I don't think you're that far away, do you?
I think it's not that you can't do it now. I think it's just like God, the market for that specific product, the cost to build that relative to the upside of the size of the market, I think is not there. So I think it's like the only reason it probably wouldn't happen right now is it's not one of the most immediate use cases. It's like drug delivery, like pharmaceutical drug delivery, you're focused on the largest problems because that there's the most upside. I don't know who's going to spend time on building the remotely managed self-storage robot. You can market size that pretty quickly. It's 50,000
Yeah.
sets. Yeah,
But I think if you think about, I mean, you see robots now that are laying down tile and doing all kinds of
it's
different
true.
things, right? So it's just that becomes somewhat of a transferable skill set, I would presume, whether, like you said, it's putting a lock on or whatever that may be. So great conversation. Anything else you want to add or share? I just want to be respectful of your time. Anything else you want to add or share that we haven't talked about?
Um, no, I mean, I just think this is clearly, obviously, this market really well. I think people make the mistake right now of deferring too much to AI. And I think, it's really easy to sign up for a tool to outsource one of your workflows and eliminate some labor. Why I like our approach to things and why I would encourage anyone who's looking at an AI off the shelf product to solve a workflow is I try to understand, what are your current capabilities? Who's your current team, and where are your needs? And can AI actually, like in a closed loop, do the best job at the lowest cost? Like, I think you should be using it to enhance and supercharge your team, not replace them at this moment in storage. I have not seen any tool be able to do like full resolution, great job on any individual task yet.
That's great. So if people want to reach out to you, Peter, or obviously if somebody says, hey, I want to have them manage my assets, how do they do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, on our website, whitelabelstorage.com, like you can put your information in there. My email is peter@whitelabelstorage.com. I always say that because it's not that hard to find anyway. Yeah, we would gladly look. There's a small industry. We love, we like being a good partner, but we'll also look at stuff. If you're, talking to an SBA lender and want to get a sense of underwriting, like we'll do that stuff without being, contractually obligated to do so. So, please contact us for
Wait,
any.
say that again. You'll help guys underwrite assets?
Look, we're trying to build. Certainly, we will not allow ourselves to be abused and underwrite assets where somebody's not for real. But yeah, we're doing that all the time. I mean, like if we think somebody's like serious, I mean, and we think we have a chance at managing it, we'll take a crack at it.
Are you just plugging it into your AI agent, or are you actually underwriting it? Just
What? A little bit. Again, it's a little bit of both, right? You could do a lot of the work now. I wouldn't have done this pre-Claude. All right. I'll just say,
Hey man, some of your stuff, I'll just dump it into my agent. Let's see what it says. And here you go. Here's what we
no, but
saw.
like the thing is, like, what's most helpful for people, I think, to say this, like, we have a cost structure and a management fee that is unique to us, and what we're mostly doing in these use cases, like, hey, the revenues are what the broker's going to give you the OM, and it's going to give you the unit mix, and there's not a lot of work you need to do around the like we can scrape the revenue using our revenue management tool. But what's helpful for you as a potential client is understanding what our cost structure is, because on these small assets, the biggest variable piece is the expense ratio. And if you don't know what our fee proposal is and know all the costs that we can strip out of the tech stack, then you probably can't underwrite that facility with a property manager in mind. So it's it's almost like a proposal alongside of an underwriting.
So good. So kind of walk me through. Let's say I come to you and I've got an asset with, I don't know, let's say 150 units or whatever. But how does the cost structure work? Am I paying you based on profitability, or what's going on there?
Usually our minimum fee is going to hit, but what is probably most, like, we're gonna say like $1,000 minimum and a 7% fee for, like, we're trying to price things on a cost per unit. And the problem with that is that there's probably, barring any like kind of unique characteristics about the facility that would cause it to be like higher service or higher volume, 100-unit facility in Idaho and 100-unit facility in New York are going to cost the same for us to manage. And so a lot of what is helpful of us putting this together is like our website. When you sign up for us, you pay us a flat fee. For a very small asset, you're probably going to pay us like $10 a unit, which sounds high, but we're going to strip out a lot of the costs in the tech stack. Our website is free. So like if you have FMS and a website, typically you'd be paying anywhere from $350 to $750 for that. It's included in our management. The revenue management tool, if you were going to use like ProRise or StoreTrack, ours is free. Delinquency call, like dialer, like we can keep our costs low because we have our own outbound delinquency dialer collecting payment. And we're only going to ever get faster and better at that. Like our reporting package is our own package. It's included in our fee. And so when these things start to add up, and the tenant protection is the big piece, on these small assets, we're conveying 100% of the tenant protection to the landlord. We don't take a piece of that, which is unique to us. Add up all those things, and our side-by-side take compared to other property managers is going to be way cheaper. Like the all-in, hey, whether it's, I've seen all the line items that other property managers have between the call center, like the training programs, the regional marketing fees, the tech fee, that always happens to be like a flat, $100, some multiple of $100 a month. Those are all wiped out. And that is what I think is most helpful about having us look at a deal, because you start to say, all right, I know what that's going to look like on this deal. I know what it's going to look like on this deal. And then there's an inversion point where at a certain amount of revenue, like you're going to just be 6% of revenue, like another property manager, if the deal's big enough. So.
Great stuff. Again, whitelabelstorage.com. I want to share one thing with our audience here, Peter, and if you want to share your thoughts on it, I would love to hear. But as always, want to remind you, go check out storagedemandscore.com, storagedemandscore.com. We've built this tool here for you to actually see if there's actual demand where you want to put an asset.
I like this.
Oh, you haven't seen this. This is great. So check this out. So I took this from the actual SSA demand study, where they say, hey, the way we determine demand is you take households times 12.6%, which is the usage rate, times the average of 125 square feet. Then we look at total supply in the market, current plus pipeline supply. We take total demand minus total supply. And then there was a guy at the New York SSA, Peter, who said, hey, he was a developer. He's like, look, unless there's 3x demand in that market, I don't touch it, because I need that kind of demand in case someone else comes in and wants to build later or whatnot. Yeah. So we teamed up with Tract IQ, and you basically just can put an address in here, put in whatever the projected project size is, and then you hit this blue button, and it'll spit you out a score, either 3 or higher, to between 2 and 3. So it just, it's not the end all be all, but I think it's a really powerful metric, because you probably have seen there's a lot of developers that are going to be in trouble in the next probably 18 to 36 months because they just thought, hey, if there's 15 square feet per capita here, who cares? I'm just going to keep building. And so anyways, we're trying to help people, protect their investors and make some better decisions around where they're potentially either buying and or putting assets. So again, check it out, storagedemandscore.com. Again, storagedemandscore.com. And hopefully you'll maybe use that as you start to underwrite deals, Peter, as you're working.
It's one more input. I like it.
Exactly. So as always, thanks so much for joining us here on the Self-Storage Report. I want to remind you next week, and Peter, if you don't mind hanging out, we'll chat for a few minutes. But next week, we're going to be putting out a great video about a zoning agent that I built. It blew me away. Hopefully it'll do the same for you. And again, check out storagedemandscore.com. I'm Chris Berg. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next time.
Thanks, Chris.